And we are live. A very, very warm welcome, everyone. Thank you to those on LinkedIn who are joining us today. I'm very honored to be joined by two of our members, Athena, who's the founder of Cosmetic Acupuncture Wisdom, and Lydia, who's the founder of A Beautiful Life. Both of you work in the beauty and wellness sector, so it's really wonderful to have both of you here. You both do very different things, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. As always, it's a pleasure to speak to both of you, and even more so now to have you in the same virtual room, so to speak. So thank you very much for joining us.
No, thank you for having us.
Thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. And for those that are listening, if you do have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and we can try and integrate them into the conversation. But otherwise, this will remain on LinkedIn afterwards. So anyone who wants to comment will be alerted to your comments and we can continue the conversation there. And at the end of this will also be downloaded and it will be on the Women's Chapter website for those that want to watch the full conversation. So without further ado, let's get started. I'd love to give each of you an opportunity to introduce yourselves and your businesses in your own words. Athena, can I start with you, please?
Yes, well, I'm a cosmetic acupuncturist and my background is in physiotherapy. So it was 5 years ago when I took the decision to leave my full-time employed job and build my own business, the Cosmetic Acupuncture Wisdom, offering wellness treatments.
It's amazing. Thank you.
And now I'm based in central London, I should say. So the clinic is based in Harvey Nichols in central London.
So no one has an excuse to not be able to find you because we all know where Harvey Nichols is, like the mothership. Thank you so much, Athena. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about your journey further down the line because I think that's fascinating that you've made this move from physiotherapy to cosmetic acupuncture. And to be honest, before I met you, I hadn't really been aware of the benefits of cosmetic acupuncture. So it's going to be really interesting to hear a little bit more from you about how the treatment works and what the benefits are and who it's for. But Lydia, can I go over to you to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and A Beautiful Life?
Yes, well, A Beautiful Life is, can't quite believe it, nearly 19 months old now. Still feel like we're a bit of a baby, but in a nutshell, it's an online e-commerce platform specifically focusing on British beauty, wellness, lifestyle brands. So really, in a nutshell, just to encourage people to shop closer to home for British brands, really.
It's wonderful. And I mean, it's mind-blowing to think that actually this didn't exist before, that, you know, you are the first platform that's really championing British beauty brands. So congratulations.
It's been a journey, but it's great to see.
And that actually brings me on to my next question, which I always find the answers to so fascinating when I speak to the founders in our community. And it's around, you know, most businesses are born on the back of a need or a need that possibly you had, or maybe a gap in the market that you identified. Athena, can I ask you to tell us a little bit more about kind of how Cosmetic Acupuncture Wisdom came about, and was it on the back of a gap that you identified existed in the market?
The biggest gap is healthy skin, because the beauty industry is quite unfair in many ways towards beauty, towards skin and how we should look. What I have identified is going through acne when I was a teenager, going through eczema, and when I early 30s, when I've realized the early aging signs, that there are not so many holistic approaches. It's a little bit of white and black in the beauty industry, and that's why cosmetic acupuncture fascinated me, because it's an all-in-one approach for the whole body, not just the face, and it makes you see skin from a different perspective and focus much more on being healthy rather than perfect.
And is that because of this view that, I mean, our skin is an organ essentially, and it plays an important role along with all of the other functions and parts of our body? And does cosmetic acupuncture address that?
I find that with Western medicine, we're just trying to deal with the symptoms. We never really investigate the root causes of problems, and the skin is one of that. Even if that's acne or an inflammatory condition or premature aging signs, we have to investigate the root cause of these problems and treat and personalize the treatment, because everyone is different, everyone has different experiences and different problems in the body that might demonstrate on the face. So that's where cosmetic acupuncture comes in, and she's everything from a holistic approach to target not just the face but the body as a whole.
It's fascinating. Thank you very much. Lydia, can you tell us about how A Beautiful Life came about? What gave you the impetus to kind of go ahead and actually do this? Because I know you are very passionate about the beauty industry and have been a key player for many years.
Yeah, well, over 28 years in the beauty industry, I guess. It's sort of almost in my blood. It's kind of all I know and love, really. And had been working with my husband running a TV studio and doing sort of occasional beauty videos for some bigger companies and smaller brands. And I really enjoyed working with some of the smaller brands and almost felt like I became part of their team, because they do have so many struggles. And it was really sort of evident. I mean, obviously, key time it was during COVID, where you start to think about what you might do in the future. And it was an idea I had, and most of my friends and contacts are in this industry. So I sort of asked them what they thought, and they all just totally sort of went, yes, you've got to do this. I guess one, possibly knowing me and what I love and what I know, and two, everyone was very aware of that. I mean, the magazine started writing articles about the best British brands and adding that as a category to their awards. So it was something that was obviously of interest to people, and people were much more focused on buying closer to home. And albeit this is online, it still feels very much like we're supporting our sort of, it is almost like home brands, really, in a way. And seeing some of these smaller brands and actually how much they struggled and turned to me for advice, I almost felt almost like duty to help them in a way. And that's where this all began, really. And yeah, it just, looking around, I realized there was nobody else focusing on British brands, and quite liked the idea of actually sort of being the champion for them and getting the word out as almost a family of British brands, that if we all come together and shout loudly enough, people will start to take more notice, rather than individual brands who wanted to really celebrate the fact that they were British didn't make so much of an impact individually. So it's that sort of team kind of family. I like the word family in a way, which I never thought I would, but I love that sort of idea of us all being a family and working together.
And I mean, you very quickly, even over the last 19 months, have become the go-to resource for British beauty. I mean, how does it feel that you're being recognized for that? Because my understanding was that was very much the vision. Kind of, yeah. How does that feel?
It is really great. I almost feel like my journey is sort of 50% sort of catering to customers and 50% sort of catering to the brands, and sort of almost being a sort of go-to, almost agony aunt, really, for advice with a lot of the brands that come on board, and some of the brands that we've had from the beginning, you know, that they phone me up quite regularly asking me for advice. I think with some brands, they don't necessarily have, I guess, as long in the industry as I have, and possibly just doubt themselves sometimes, you know, in terms of, I'm very passionate about the products that I've got or what I'm trying to do, but, you know, am I right in doing this? They sort of really worry about, you know, whether their products will be of interest to customers. And I'm sort of there, the one motivating them, saying, yes, you know, what you're doing is great. You are great. Your products are great. And I really enjoy that side of it too, just sort of encouraging people that just to take risks, really. But also know, for my honesty, if I think something's got sort of slight areas, I feel it's almost my duty to sort of say to them, you know, really focus on this, or don't do this, or have you ever thought about just, you know, sometimes they can try to do too much, that fear of kind of catering to everyone and sort of trying to do too much, you know, with a product launch, like having like loads and loads within the range. And I'm very much just focus on the core products and get your name out there, and then kind of look to go bigger. Don't sort of feel like you're going to miss out on something if you don't have that particular element to your business.
Thank you. Athena, I'd like to dig a little deeper into your journey from physiotherapist to acupuncturist. And I know that you also incorporate facial treatments kind of around the acupuncture. So it's not just the needling side of it. How did that come about? Can you tell us a little bit more about the evolution of cosmetic acupuncture wisdom?
It started by introducing Western musculoskeletal acupuncture in my physiotherapy treatments, focusing mostly on pain, injuries, and then because I was specializing in spinal problems, I used to treat quite a lot of neck, headaches, jaw pain, TMJ problems. So I used to do quite a lot of acupuncture on the face and the head for that, and acupuncture on the ear. So I was digging more and more into acupuncture with different trainings. I love traditional Chinese medicine, so I wanted to train into that and learn as much as possible around acupuncture. And that's when I came across cosmetic acupuncture. I had no idea. I didn't know that you could use a cosmetic acupuncture for aesthetic purposes. But apparently it is quite old. There's evidence that emperors and emperors and empresses used acupuncture for aesthetic purposes. But the way we do cosmetic acupuncture now is a little bit like a combination of traditional Chinese medicine and Western modalities. There's so much research. So the training that I did had quite a lot of dermatology and skincare. I loved how the cosmetic acupuncture developed me in a different way than physiotherapy did. And I was able to pursue my passion for skincare, for dermatology, and learn so much more.
And did you find that a lot of your physiotherapy clients were open to trying that as a treatment? Because my understanding is, you know, that this is something that I guess is less invasive than using, say, Botox and fillers and things, because as you were saying, it's a holistic treatment. But is that where your original client base came from, your physiotherapy clients, that then their interest in cosmetic acupuncture grew along with yours?
I feel that when the patients realize that it's not just traditional Chinese medicine, it's not just energy, because energy tends to freak most people out. When they realize that there are studies, we understand how needling works, we know what it does from a physiology point of view, and there's evidence, they're less hesitant to try it, and it's less scary, doesn't have any side effects, so it's quite easy to attract people's attention, really. And the biggest benefit is that it's an all-in-one treatment, so you feel that you're having so much with one treatment. It's not just about the face. You feel so much better, you sleep so much better, you get all the other benefits of a general acupuncture treatment.
Amazing. I want one. I think we have to go, Lydia.
Yeah, I was literally just thinking that, right?
Everyone needs it, basically, and that's why the patients that I normally see are from teenagers, early 20s, up to 60s or 70s. Everyone can benefit from it.
That's wonderful. And how did it come about that you have your practice at Harvey Nichols? I mean, was that, did that just sort of, Was it a stroke of luck, or did you earmark that as a location that you really wanted to be in?
I was in central London before. I was practicing from Harley Street and Mayfair. So I knew that I always wanted to stay within the central London area, but there's department stores are looking into growing the beauty services much more. And basically, cosmetic acupuncture drew their attention, and they wanted to offer it through their store, because especially after the pandemic, stores really struggle bringing people through the doors with most people shopping online. The cosmetic acupuncture is a good combination of beauty and wellness.
Amazing. And Athena, do you have your own product line that you use as part of those treatments as well? Or do you use a variety of different products, maybe even some very British ones?
Again, using skincare products in the treatment goes back to evidence. So there are studies that show that the skin produces hyaluronic acid and growth factors normally when you injure it to heal itself. But when you put skincare products that have more of that, it can speed up the healing process, and it can stimulate the production of collagen even more. So there are I use a combination of products that have quite rich active ingredients that will penetrate deeper into the skin through the punctures. And I do collaborate many times with different skincare brands. Of course, being at Harvard Nichols also helps, because there's so many skincare companies on the doorstep.
Yeah.
And skincare advice is a big part also of my treatment, because that helps my patients continue their maintaining the effect of the treatment at home. So I like to introduce them to different products that will suit them to simplify their skincare routine at home and enhance the results of the treatment.
Amazing. And Lydia, in terms of a beautiful life, what's the vision for where you want to take it to next? Because as you said, you've come so far in the last 19 months. What's next for you?
Well, I mean, we've come quite far, but probably in the sort of grand scheme of things, in terms of where I would like to take it, we're still very much at the beginning of our journey, and I'm constantly learning and constantly I think most people who have their own business, their brain doesn't stop ticking. Whenever I see anything, I'm like, oh, we could do that. And I'm sort of evolving, seeing what happens with the business. And so that long-term vision is constantly changing. I think, that the biggest goal for us really is getting the word out there to consumers that we are here, getting them to think slightly differently in terms of how they buy their products. We've for so long been this whole celebrity Kardashian kind of, watching what celebrities are using and sort of following that. There is definitely a change in that now. And, we still very much go to online and we want to see what real people are using. So education is definitely something we want to bring onto the website. It's this thing we're looking at mostly at the moment. So obviously, having worked in video content's a key part of that, but also really making sure that our website is educating people, giving them the right content. And I really want it to be a place where people can come and feel that it's not just a place that's there to make as much money as possible, that we genuinely care. That's why we hand select all the products that are on there, and it's nothing that we wouldn't recommend ourselves. So that when people do get to know us, we're a sort of environment, if they're interested in shopping for beauty brands, British beauty brands, that it's somewhere that they know that they can trust their purchases, which is even more important at the moment when people's money is, they're very much considering. I think people are prepared to pay for the right products if they really believe in them. They'll probably buy less. We're sort of less impulsive when we're shopping, that we actually consider more what we're spending our money on. But if we feel safe and trust the sort of purchases we're making, and I want us to really become somewhere that people genuinely trust, that they can come to, and when trying a new product as well, if it's something you've never tried before, that they feel a little bit more secure in trying something new, and really just people feeling like we're a bit more genuine, and we genuinely do care for them. But it's really growing awareness, really, and getting people to know that we're somewhere that they can come to, and that, as anyone knows, is quite a long journey, but certainly providing a secure environment where they can get real knowledge as well. So making sure we have the video content is genuine, sort of educational, rather than sort of, very much this is our product and it's amazing kind of content, which is why we're quite specific about the content and why we haven't started it yet, so that when we do start it, it's of genuine interest. It's not just a sales pitch as such.
Well, it goes back to that piece, the authenticity piece, right? And how that so many people are realizing that that's the essence of a successful brand, and how we engage with our communities and grow. It just all goes back to really being true to ourselves and our values, and how our businesses reflect that.
Yeah.
Athena, can you tell us a little bit more about what the vision is for Cosmetic Acupuncture Wisdom? What's next for you?
The vision is to, I'm a little bit romantic there. I really want cosmetic acupuncture to be a mainstream treatment, like Botox and fillers are. And that's where I feel that this step of moving to Harvey will hopefully help me, because it will spread much more awareness around the treatment, and will spread the word about the benefits of the treatment, and that will allow me also to continue building the company, inspiring more people to train into cosmetic acupuncture, because that's a struggle I find now that I try to hire people to work alongside me to offer cosmetic acupuncture. There are not so many cosmetic acupuncturists. We need to we need to grow this treatment much more.
No, absolutely. I mean, well, as I said, until I had met you, I had not heard of it or considered it. I'd had needling and that as part of physiotherapy treatments, but never anywhere near my face. And even when you were talking about the jaw muscles and things, I mean, that's certainly something I struggle with, and thinking like, oh, the release that must come from that must be amazing. Is it painful?
That's everyone's concern, really. The needles are super fine, so it's mostly not painful at all. You feel sometimes a prick from the needle, but the needle is as thick as a couple of hair together, and silicone coated to make the insertion smoother, so you barely feel it. And many times patients are surprised that I do so many needles on the face. They don't even realize that they had so many needles coming in.
Wow. And do you perform the treatments on yourself? I mean,
I do.
You need your own. Oh, okay, wow.
Yes, I do. Not regularly, I have to admit, but it's still a little bit harder really to do it on myself, and I'm not sure I ever got used to it. I still have to take a deep breath and but every time I do it, I'm just saying to myself, oh, you have the tools, why you don't do it so often? The result is incredible, like because I mostly tend to do it when I struggle to sleep, and then that gives me a good and deep sleep at night.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Well, I would like to switch over now to talking a little bit more about being a business owner, because I think for so many people that's fascinating, but it's also really inspiring to hear people like both of you tell your stories and share openly and honestly about kind of your highlights, but also maybe some of the challenges that you faced. So I would love to start with asking each of you to share a highlight of your journey so far. no matter how big or small. It would be really lovely to hear you share that. Athena, can I start with you?
The highlight is that I feel that I became a little bit stronger through this journey, and I've learned how to trust my gut feel and just never giving up, and trust myself much more. So you do start becoming a little bit more fearless when you build your own company, because you have to really listen to yourself.
And Lydia, how about you?
I would agree with all of that. I mean, I've certainly, I feel I can take more risks, definitely, because you start off being quite cautious and possibly with less doubt in yourself. But you can't be like that when you're running a business. You do have to take chances, and you do have to go for it. And you realize that, you know, what's the worst that can happen? And actually, the more you do that, the more, I think, the braver you get, because you've done it a few times and you've like, well, it wasn't that bad, you know, and actually my instinct was right. And you have more belief in yourself, I think, definitely. I mean, I would say I'm sort of on the outside very confident, but inside always sort of doubting myself. And I definitely feel much more confident from doing this. And, you know, just that inner confidence, you know, which people don't see, those sort of inner worries that you're constantly having. You just learn to, I think, be a bit more relaxed. I mean, there are, as we all have, times where you're at night just thinking about work and all the things, you know, all the worries. But I think you just have to make sure you don't get overly stressed about these things, because otherwise you probably wouldn't sleep at all. That you have to sort of take faith that whatever happens, you know, you work it out in some format, and, you know, it might take a bit longer, but you'll get there in the end. And definitely self-belief is a key part.
It's interesting that you both have touched on this kind of, you know, what translates to me as resilience. And I think so many people who have been on this journey don't realize how their resilience builds through this process. Because, you know, as you said, Lydia, like in the beginning, something that might freak you out or that you would think would be a really big thing, a little further down the line, you become a little thicker skinned to it. And I know that I've been the same. I remember the things that used to upset me in the very beginning and how I used to fuss about the tiny details. And now my attitude is very much, well, like, nobody's gonna die if that detail is, you know, and maybe it's been what we've been through with COVID that I think has given people a little more perspective on, you know, how much we stress about things, and that actually both of you are both in, you know, the wellness sector and thinking about encouraging people to think about how to take care of themselves. You know, even just with beauty products, self-care is a really big part of that. So yeah, so I think it's really interesting that both of you sort of, you know, you touched on this, putting things into perspective and how you learn and grow through this process, even if you're not aware of it at the time. And Lydia, did you have a specific career highlight so far, or in the last 19 months that you've been running A Beautiful Life? Has there been one particular moment you could put your finger on that kind of made you think, oh, wow, this is worth it?
I think there's been quite a few, actually, you know, quite a few sort of everywhere you go, you know, people are so full of enthusiasm. I've been surprised even by the industry's response for what we're doing. And the nice thing, I think, that I've taken for it, as I said, doubting myself, you know, and having confidence in myself. The one thing that people constantly saying to me is, you've really inspired me. And I'm like, I did not expect that at all. And people always say, you know, your enthusiasm and your passion, you know, is almost infectious. And these are all things I didn't actually know about myself possibly before, because people didn't tell me. And actually, more and more people saying it, you're like, well, after a certain amount of people, you're like, well, actually, you know, it's quite nice that people see that I know I've got this passion and enthusiasm for it, that people are actually making the effort to tell me that. and to feel that I'm sort of inspiring other people. I think that for me is, you know, business obviously comes into it and you want to be successful, but actually people really sort of having belief in you is no matter what happens, if it all ended tomorrow, you know, I'll feel a bit better about myself, and that's key, I think, to anything in life, really, that self-belief.
Absolutely. And Athena, how about when you got your keys to your practice at Harvey Nichols? Was that like kind of an amazing or surreal moment for you? And I know that you've had it, it's been specially interior design, the space, so that it really fits with your brand, but also your ethos. Has that been a highlight for you, or was there maybe something else that stands out?
Definitely that, yes, because that was the first time that I owned the room and put my personality into it and my style, and created an amazing work environment for myself, first of all, because it's so I never feel tired. Even if I see a lot of patients during the day, I never feel drained, because the environment is so calm, and because it has my style, it has my yes, my some pieces of my personality and all this effort, and because that's the main element when I try to design my treatments. The care to the small details that will make a change to someone's life, even if that's for 90 minutes.
Amazing. Well, I'm completely sold. I'm definitely coming to visit soon. I just have to find some time before Christmas.
You've got too many customers.
Once we've run all of the events that we've got going on in November, and I'm going to literally have to be scraped up off the floor and brought into your practice.
Absolutely.
I would love to talk to you both about how you navigate challenge, because I think this is always, and it's really interesting how so many positives come out of this. And I think, again, that's something that we have learned over the last 2 years, is how so many opportunities come from crisis or adversity. But what's in your toolkit for how you manage challenge? Lydia, can I start with you?
I think possibly being the age I am at 46, you kind of have learned a lot generally about, you know, I mean, I've had all kinds of difficult things to deal with in my life, and I think with each one of those that you go through, they make you stronger. So I definitely think being more mature and starting this at an older age has allowed me to do that. And the weird thing is, I often sort of say to people that is what gives me my resilience, I guess, is one, looking back at all the things I've managed to get through, and I've had the strength to get through those, and allowing yourself sometimes to have a moment where you might cry or get angry or, you know, sort of lash out, and then you just pick yourself up again and feel a lot better for it, you know, and just understanding that you're human, but certainly, you know, all the things you go through in life, I think, all teach you and give you that resilience, like you mentioned. And I quite like that in a way, that I now say, well, you know, all those things I went through have created the person I am today. And it's taken me probably, I say, till about I was 40 to actually look in the mirror and go, actually, do you know what, you're all right. You know, you're not, stop putting yourself down. But also that if I hadn't have gone through all of those things, I wouldn't be the person that is here today. And actually, although they were awful, they have all created the person I am today, and have it being proud in myself. But I wouldn't be this person if I hadn't have gone through those. So as awful as they are, each awful thing you go through actually, one, makes you more resilient, but two, makes you the person going forward that often people are drawn to. I think sometimes people who've gone through awful things are almost drawn to other people that have, as a sort of feeling secure in their presence. So, you know, a lot of people, as I said, just talking to them and actually being honest about, you know, I mean, I have epilepsy and I'm really open about that now, whereas I used to feel that I couldn't mention that. And I'm like, I shouldn't feel ashamed of that. That is who I am. And actually, it's one of the first things I mention to people now. And actually, that makes me, I feel fine about that, and makes me feel stronger that, you know, admitting you've got all these flaws and you're not perfect and this is who you are.
Yeah. No, so much of that resonates for me. Thank you very much, Lydia. And Athena, how do you navigate challenge? What do you go to as a tool?
I always try to keep things simple and focus a lot on the moment, because many times we get distracted with what happened in the past, or the fears that we might have for the future. But we just need to focus on now. How can I just make now work? And it doesn't have to be perfect. We just have to keep it simple sometimes and just keep going.
I think that's really, really good advice. Not to overcomplicate things, and take a step back, right? Because a lot of the time, when you're very much in something, it's hard to see the wood for the trees, and when you take that step back, often that gives you an opportunity to sort of simplify it and distill it down into what the key issue actually is. So thank you for that, both of you. And do you have a greatest lesson that you've each learned along this journey? Or it might not need to be along this journey, but maybe just kind of from your experiences that you would want to share today, Lydia.
I think it was a lesson that I got from somebody else, and now I use as one of my own sort of toolkits, really. And that was to not be scared to say you don't know something, you don't understand it, or that somebody else knows much more about it. Not being scared to admit that and ask for advice from other people. And yeah, just being open and just saying to somebody, I've got no idea what I'm doing here, I need your help. And actually people are they almost warm to that and will offer you their advice and really want to help you. So, you know, not trying to put that facade on that you know everything, and not sort of admitting, God, I don't know how to do that, or I've never heard of that, or, you know, even when it comes to little things in business, I don't know half of these things. I am sometimes learning along the way, but just not being scared to admit that and ask for help, really, which is what somebody taught me once.
No, you know, that's something I hear consistently from the women in our community and successful people, you know, both men and women, is that surrounding yourself with good people and playing to your own strengths, and then bringing in others around you who can support you with their strengths. You know, that there's no weakness in admitting that there's something that isn't your forte, or something that you know is kind of not your skill set, because we all do live and learn, but it's about bringing in. And interestingly, I'm in a Facebook group with a very, very successful entrepreneur. And in fact, she's exited her business for tens of millions. And interestingly, the other day, she was posting in the group asking for some help around something. And I was really inspired by that, because I thought, wow, you know, this woman, and because she started up a new venture, a subsequent venture, and it's in a completely different industry. And she was kind of saying, I'm really passionate about what we're doing, and this is a massive passion project, but there's some things that I need help with, and I'm looking for some people to help me. And they were all things that I often, you know, tech related things, for example, that I sort of feel like, oh, I should know these things. But it was really refreshing to see someone, you know, who has really been so successful and is on to a second or probably third venture now, still asking for help. And that was really inspiring to me. So thank you for identifying that, Lydia. Athena, how about you?
The biggest lesson for me was to dig into my values, because that's what always helps me to prioritize things. And that's what people who have their own business struggle mostly with. There's so much to do, there's so much so little time that you have, and you have to set your priorities right. And what always really helps me is to, okay, let's go back to my values. What is more important for me? what will be the next step. And that's how I've learned to set my priorities.
Thank you. That's really good advice. And do you have somebody, because I love, Lydia, that you were talking about earlier, you know, that people have been telling you how your passion is so infectious and that you're such an inspiration. And there's this quote, probably albeit a cliche, that says, you never know who you're inspiring. Is there someone that you both look to, you know, it doesn't have to be a woman, but someone that you look to for inspiration or motivation, a role model, if you will? Lydia?
Too many, I guess. I mean, I take from people along the way. I mean, along the journey, I think it's people sometimes that you can really associate with. I mean, for example, it's the first thing that came to mind was on holiday a few months back. I bought the book Maria Hastefanis from Roscoe Skincare, and her book I literally picked up. I mean, I don't often get the chance to read, but holiday is one of the few days I do, and I literally devoured the book in a couple of days. But I was literally reading it, just going yes, yes, yes to everything she wrote. And I'm now rereading the book to kind of make notes from it, because I couldn't, that's what I planned to do, but I was just so wanting to get through the book that I didn't have time to write the notes. But it wasn't just that she was in the beauty industry. So many of her thoughts about herself and sort of running a business, I just completely associated with. So probably somebody who was an inspiration a couple of years ago isn't the first person that I think of now. They just got me to the step that I am now, where somebody else will come along and they'll inspire me. But people, I take inspiration from so many people, even if it's a tiny little one thing they say to me. I mean, I was in awe earlier, late last week rather. I got invited to an event with Stephen Bartlett from Dragon's Den. He's always been, I mean, I love the program just because I love entrepreneurship, but he's sort of been my favorite one recently. And again, it was a panel discussion, and I was just sitting listening to him, and it was just, one, inspiring me, but two, constantly sitting there thinking, yes, you know, yes, 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 I need to do that, and I need to believe that. And even if it's things you know yourself, it just reinforces that actually what you're thinking is right. And going, actually, yeah. And he was very much just, one of the key points I took from him was, don't be scared of failure, because actually to fail in life, you have to take the chances on things. And if you don't take those chances, you don't fail, but then you never achieve anything either. And I've been quoting that to so many people. But yeah, I take inspiration from everyone I meet, really, because everyone has something different to bring.
It's lovely, thank you. And Athena?
Totally agree there, and especially about Maria, because I came across her book because it was recommended by another Greek friend, because I'm originally Greek, and Maria is Greek. And it's just so inspiring that she left your country to go to US, to go to London, and followed her passion, and really believed in herself, and it's so nice to have a book that you go back to just constantly when you need it, when you start doubting yourself, just to keep getting inspiration. And many other women in business inspire me, like from Coco Chanel, who did the impossible.
One of mine.
Just by and she never gave up. She did something that was so much like so many years ahead of her time, and yes, and even you can draw inspiration at everything. To be honest, nowadays I spend a lot of time around toddlers, and that's really yeah, I get so much inspiration at their excitement to little things in life, and just being happy with focusing a lot on happiness. Actually, that's the biggest inspiration, I would say, for me. Just focusing on what makes you happy.
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting. I was having a conversation with one of our other members about this the other day, Natalie Montagnani, and she was saying, obviously, she works with a lot of business owners who've lost their sense of joy or their motivation or, you know, kind of their way in terms of why they're doing what they're doing, and how it's so important to find that again, or if you've lost it, work out why you have, and what's resulted in this kind of the break in the circuit or the disconnect. Because without joy in those very simple things, it results in a lack of happiness in all of the parts of our lives, you know. So those things are really fundamental, I think, and many of us as business owners can often lose our way and forget why we're doing what we're doing. So it's really that, I think that's a great piece of advice as well. As we're ending off now, I wondered if just each of you, if there is anything that you want to say about your respective businesses that we didn't get a chance to cover before we wrap up. Lydia, was there anything you wanted to add?
Not necessarily anything to add. I mean, just a sort of big thank you. I mean, what we've been talking about, taking from other people, it's great to hear other people's journeys, and whilst we're talking, actually again thinking and really enjoying and having an interest just in a lot of the things you said, Athena. I've got a real interest in what you do. You know, I'm quite excited. I'd love to find out more about the business, and it's always great to speak with you, Michelle, and always gives me that boost that you know, you've asked me to come along and talk anyway. So yeah, just that, thank you for involving me, really. And it's always great. Women's Chapter, obviously, I've met so many great people who I think will be friends moving forward, just from totally different industries who I'd never have met before. But it's great meeting like-minded people who really sort of give you that boost sometimes when you really need it the most. You know, yeah. Just meeting other people who kind of go, yeah, come on, what you're doing is great, you know.
No, thank you very much, Lydia, and it's always an honor to have you. Athena, was there anything you wanted to add?
Just to add more on that, really, that it's just wonderful that you're bringing us all together, Michelle, and we can all get inspired by each other's passion and learn from each other's journey and mistakes and joys and wins in their businesses, and get a little bit stronger in a way by getting this support from each other and this inspiration.
Oh, you're very welcome. I mean, my greatest motivator is bringing people together and providing a platform for them to share their stories. It's one of the best parts of my job, but also encouraging and seeing how when you bring incredible people together, you know, the connections and the collaborations that come from that, it's incredibly rewarding. And I think that's the key part of any network, right? Regardless of which one you belong to, is about making those really meaningful connections with other people and leaving with a spring in your step because someone said something that inspired you or added some value to your journey or your life. So thank you, both of you, for making the time to join us today. If anyone has joined us half the way through, you will be able to watch the whole recording from the beginning, but it will also be uploaded to the Women's Chapter website via our YouTube feed. Both of you, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm incredibly grateful. I know that you are both very busy women, so thank you for sharing so much of yourselves and your time with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Lydia.
And nice to meet you.
Bye.
Bye.